Quotations from myself, segment 86, quotation number 1017. As far as I am concerned, there is no great mystery to how to succeed in life. It is mainly by ingratiating oneself with as many people as possible, but especially with those who are in position to give something to us. And it could be done quite easily by simply telling everyone what he or she wants to hear, that is, to confirm their perception, feelings, opinions, and ideas, thus validating, in essence, their very existence. It may be objective, of course, that this isn't as simple as it sounds. And I tend to agree, for it requires actually paying attention and not just a lip service to their psychological needs, to the psychological needs of others, something few of us have time or inclination for. Yet, if we are willing to put even a minimal effort into it, the returns could be tenfold. For people, longings are not as impenetrable as it may appear to the inattentive bystander, but could become sufficiently transparent to be seen through by the one who is capable to forget for a moment about one's own needs in order to discern those of others. And because it happens so seldom, the people's gratitude is usually disproportionately larger than our efforts. Yet, like with everything else in life, there is a caveat, and it largely depends on whether one genuinely enjoys telling others what they like to hear or not. First, if one doesn't, which is not as common as would seem, for some really do, then despite the all-obvious benefits of putting ourselves in a good standing with potential benefactors, one gets simply tired of doing what comes unnaturally. Moreover, because of growing fatigue of constant pleasing, one's performance became less and less convincing, until it reaches a dangerous point when even those who were blinded by flattery start to detect insincerity and falsity, and begin to dislike the flatterer. Secondly, since pleasing must be a lifelong commitment, for the more is received, the more is expected, if one feels pressure to act upon one's natural inclination, if one feels pressure to act against one's natural inclination, the artificiality of such a forced conduct leads to the gradual accumulation of resentment and even hatred toward the very same people one is trying to please. And this pent-up frustration will sooner or later burst out in some angry and insulting remark, which in a single moment can destroy the years of cultivating goodwill. Finally, there is a danger that with so much time and energy devoted to please others, to cater to their psychological needs, one tends to forget and neglect one's own, which can lead at the end of the day to the bitterness of a wasted life. All in all, however potentially profitable telling others what they want to hear may be, it is a special skill, and like any other skill, not everybody is good at it or even suitable for it, no matter how hard one tries. 10:21. Many study philosophy, but few live it, and only the second know the difference. Yet if one to believe Diogenes Laertius, the 3rd century AD writer whose lives and opinions of eminent philosophers, in 10 books, is the most comprehensive collection of biographies of the ancient Greek philosopher, from Thales to Epicurus, It wasn't always like this. According to him, the majority of these early philosophers felt obliged to give credence to their daily conduct by their daily conduct to what they espoused as thinkers. But with philosophy gaining popularity and prestige, and as a result becoming more and more a subject to study and trade, to earn a living, and less a way to live, the separation between the theory and personal behavior began. The Romans, who were too busy building the empire to devote much time and energy to develop their own homegrown philosophy, has appropriated among the many other things the Greek one, but mostly as a matter of fashion and hardly of practice. In the dark ages of barbarism and dogmatic fanatical Christianity, anyone with philosophical inclination would translate it into acceptance of monastic life, this gross and superstitious perversion of Stoicism. Later, during the Renaissance, with proliferation of European university, philosophy again became a requisite course for a student to take, and teaching it would simply be another respectable academic career for the ambitious middle-class intellectuals, but seldom a way of life, which was just as well. For this development was spurred on by the historical inferiority complex and the desire to imitate the illustrious ancestors, and not necessarily one's own. This slavish impulse was never successful, for the moderns have no way of knowing how the ancient actually lived, and despite the best intentions and assiduous efforts, it seldom resembles more than a grotesque and silly caricature. Besides, as far as philosophy is concerned, the Renaissance men, notwithstanding the favorable publicity they received later, were more preoccupied with a conspicuous consumption, trying to make up for the scarcity and austerity of the lean and hungry dark ages, than with contemplation, and paid but an obligatory lip service to the vanities of it all. In short, to use a modern expression, they were doers, not thinkers. Today, philosophy jealously guarded monopoly of a select group of university professors, securely tenured and well paid, not averse to good living and comfortable housing, guiltlessly enjoying such perks as departmental wine and cheese parties, international conferences, grand sabbatical, etc., etc. In a word, the followers of Diogenes of Sinope, who wore coarse clothing, ate plain food, and slept on the bare ground, they are certainly not. Bearing this in mind, it is not surprising, therefore, that the question of personal morality and virtue, good and evil, truth and falsehood, right or wrong, etc., are as far from their daily concern as of any layman whose idea of philosophy is that it is something very few smart people occupy their free time with, and which has no practical application whatsoever. 1022. The reason why the Canadians in general are giving so little to hero worshipping, the trait much lamented by ardent Canadian nationalists, could be as simple as having so few of them that for a lack of practice they have never acquired the habit. 1023. All who are married, men and women alike, would like to believe that their own spouses, like Caesar's wife, are above suspicion, while at the same time indulging in fantasies, innocent or otherwise, that somebody else are open to suggestion. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on one's particular situation. The simple rules of arithmetic does not allow the both possibility present themselves simultaneously very often. 1024. Ever wonder why there is Loch Ness monsters, but nobody ever suggested the presence of a similar mysterious creature in Thames River, especially in its part flowing through London? Or why flying saucers have never been sighted over New York, but always somewhere in Nebraska or Montana, and in the places one might have great difficulty finding on a map? If you did, but haven't come up with satisfactory answers yet, try this one. It is a relentless monotony of rural life, its mind-numbing uneventfulness that produces the insatiable hunger for the unusual in the midst of ordinariness, and gives birth to fantasy in order to relieve the tediousness of reality. And then, if we go several thousand years back, when, unlike now, the overwhelming majority of world population lived in small isolated villages, and realized that without books, newspaper, radio, TV, life then was immeasurably duller than even in the most remote places in present, we can understand why that age, unlike ours, had produced such a tremendous variety of myths, legends, fables, and fairy tales. For the main purpose of such creative fantasies was then essentially the same as now: to survive the excruciating boredom of rural existence. 1025. In a Bible study class at the local church I have been attending in the past few years, and which is sufficiently supplied by the identical copies of the Bible for all participants, there are some who stubbornly insist on bringing their own, each of which is a different version of translation of the same Bible. In addition, they are usually the ones who more often than others volunteer to read it aloud, to the great inconvenience of the rest who, using the stereotyped edition, cannot follow them, the fact they totally ignore. And if unity on such small matters cannot be achieved among a couple dozen of parishioners of the same church, is it any wonder that throughout its whole history, Christianity has been wrecked by the divisions caused mainly by the different readings of the same text? Moreover, if one extends by analogy what is happening in this small group at the local church to humanity at large, it may be supposed that a lot of misunderstanding between people, and endangered by its continuous strife, could have been avoided if we all agreed to read from the same version of Book of Life, instead of tenaciously clinging to our own, however beloved translation of it. 1026. If there is God, I want to trust He would not deny me justice, for I know that as long as I live, the people would.